Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to leg 5 of If I Knew Then What I Know Now. Sorry, leg 4 of If I Knew Then What I Know Now. Great to be here after Catherine Granger to Claire Boulding to Krista Cullen. We've got another great guest lined up this week, so really looking forward to making the most of Kelly Brown, who is joining us, and welcome Kelly to the show. He's going to be switching on any second now. We've got great stuff to look forward to. Kelly, good to see you. Everything looks like that's working perfectly. Good to see you. Really looking forward to this afternoon's conversation, and thanks very much for taking the time to be here. Been a really good week at Planet K2. Lots of stuff going on for us. Some new programs launching. That if you're interested, get on the website and look at our sort of new programs that you can all be joining in, which is building on a lot of the principles that are coming out of these conversations, actually. So it's great to be having new voices, new stories, new confirmation of a lot of the stuff that we know is at the heart of ongoing success. And I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing the continued conversations that are going to come after Kelly as well. But Kelly, you've had the handover from Krista Cullen. So from Kenya to London, I guess you are via... You're there via Scotland now, I guess, having been Scotland captain. 64 caps. How many of those as captain?
It was 14. So actually, my first one as captain was also my 50th cap.
Right.
So it was a bit of a special day, and there's actually a bit of a story around that. So I was asked to be Scotland captain in the January of 2012. Mm-hmm. And it was going to be my 50th cap, as I said, and it was the first game of the Six Nations was Scotland against England, and so it was all set up to be an amazing day, an incredible day, and then 3 days after I was asked to be Scotland captain, I was playing for Saracens over in Italy.
Right.
I went down in a tackle and I felt something in my leg. It wasn't that sore, but I just knew that something wasn't quite right. And so I'm sitting there on the pitch thinking, right, this isn't looking great. I've got to be Scotland captain in 2 weeks. It's all set up. It's going to be my 50th cap, etc., etc. But anyway, it transpired that I had a dislocated fibula. So I was out for 6 months and all this sort of stuff. So I thought, you know, have I missed my opportunity? Is it ever going to come around again? But I was fortunate then in the autumn I came back and I was off to the captaincy again. So yeah, it was great to get to do it.
Yeah. So great. So lots of leadership stuff we can talk about, as well as your rugby union playing career, I guess. Coaching now, so you're coaching as part of the Saracens Academy.
Yeah,
so you've got some great stuff to talk about. But so I guess you are in London, around London, just outside London. How's lockdown been for you? You're an active guy. You're coaching. I know you're musical as well, so there's all of that stuff. But you know, how have you been sort of managing in lockdown, and what's a typical week like now for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, one thing that has been great is just to spend the time with the family. You know, as a family, we're pretty busy. I'm well, in the normal times, I'm out quite a lot, doing all of my coaching and then speaking, be it after dinner speaking or going into companies and speaking. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually been great to get to spend all that time with the family. One thing that has been a challenge is everyone at Saracens really has been furloughed. And so the rugby coaching has taken a bit of a backward seat. Mm-hmm. But I've been able to sort of watch a lot of rugby and sort of plan and kind of explore ideas and things which I maybe wouldn't have got to do if I'd been doing my normal job. Probably the hardest part of it has been the homeschooling, which has been an interesting challenge, but we're just about managing to get through that.
Yeah, no, sounds great. And I think that loads of people that we've been talking to, the balancing home life and work life and getting that has been a real challenge. And, you know, but I think, you know, but maybe some good learning coming out of it for everyone as well. And you know, your example there of kind of getting into doing a load of homework, I guess, as well, that you wouldn't normally get the time to do as well, is, you know, sort of prioritizing different things, which is I guess that's probably thrown up some useful perspective for you as well, looking at the game without the regular training and sort of match play that you'd be involved in.
Absolutely, and just to look at sort of how we do things. Is it the best way? Is there something we can change? Is there something we can tweak in that? And so it's been really useful to have that time, because as a coach, you're pretty flat out all of the time, and it's game on game on game on game. So to actually get a bit of an opportunity to sit back and to look and to reflect, it's been very, very useful.
Yeah, no, great, really good. And I'm really interested in that whole kind of transition from player to coach, but keeping some of the principles that help you be a great player, moving to being a great coach as well, as, you know, maybe part of the conversation today. But this is, you know, all about reflection and thinking about, if I knew then what I know now, and so is that some of your learning and development story, I guess, through your career. So if we start to tune into that, and we sort of, you know, pick up that theme of if I knew then what I know now, what stuff comes to mind for you as, you know, important learning or important reflections or important knowledge that you've gained through your professional life, you know, over the last few years?
Yeah, there's a period of about sort of 5 or 6 months that really sort of sticks out in my mind. So it was November 2009, and up until that point, I had 30 Scotland caps. So I was quite a seasoned internationalist, but I didn't really feel as if I'd sort of I didn't really feel established at that point. And then in the autumn tests, I was in the wider squad, but I wasn't in the matchday squad. And 3 of the 4 guys in the back row in the matchday squad were actually at the club that I played for as well. And so I had a bit of a crisis of confidence, really, as to, well, am I even going to play at my club? Or am I going to start at my club? All this sort of stuff. And so I was a bit down for a few weeks, and I actually said to the coach then, I said, well, if that's your decision, okay, I accept it, but I think you're wrong, and I'm going to prove it to you. And then I was reading a book by Michael Johnson, and I had a quote in it, and it really sort of stuck with me, and it was question everything but never yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And I just thought that just at that time for me really sort of hit home, because it just showed that I needed to have complete faith and complete belief in my own abilities, which up until that point I maybe hadn't actually had. And so I just read that, and for some reason it just struck a chord. I said, right, I'm going to show the coach, I'm going to show everyone that I deserve to be in this team. And that sort of coupled into the Six Nations. I was fortunate in that, as is often the way in sports, someone else got injured, and I was given an opportunity to start the first game in the Six Nations against France. And in the build-up to that, I was asked if I would do an interview for the TV.
Yeah.
So of course I agreed to do it, and at that point I don't know if people that are observing this know or whatever, but I've got a stammer, and it's something I've had my whole life. And at that point I was very much an out of control stammerer, but most of the time it was okay, but just when the pressure came on, it would catch up with me at times, like interviews, if I was asked to do a TV interview. So I did the interview, and it was absolutely shocking. It was appalling. When I stammer, I would blink, my face would twitch, I'd get stuck on words, and I was embarrassed by it. I was embarrassed by the interview, but I was embarrassed so much actually that I then an hour or two after the interview, I called the Scotland media manager, and I asked if he could and asked if he could please make sure that it was never shown.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a massive catalyst for me, that, because it actually really, really showed me and really reinforced to me that I was in control of my future. And so it really, really encouraged me to take control and to control the factors that I could control. And then if I was going to overcome my speech, if I was going to become the absolute best version of me that I could, I needed to do something about that.
Yeah.
So I enrolled on this course called the Maguire program, which is essentially, it's a course run by stammerers for stammerers.
Mm-hmm.
And I enrolled on that, and it's a 4-day intensive course, and it changed everything for me, because it really showed me and really sort of hit home that I could do whatever I wanted to do and whatever I wanted to achieve, but it was up to me to do it.
Yeah, no, that's kind of really sort of powerful story of those choice points, and then taking those choice points and stepping in, and then finding something that kind of was a method for you, I guess. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. I'm really interested though that, you know, you said you were a pretty successful player up until that point anyway, but then you learned some other things, and obviously the speech control became much better, and you moved on to other things and had a second half. How good do you think you were prior to that as a player? And do you think you learned stuff that would have allowed you to sort of make more of those first, 30 caps?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think I could have made more of those first 30 caps. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think I played, and I played well. I don't think I probably fully backed myself in those games. And I don't think, and I maybe felt it was a little bit above my level, that, if I'm being honest. I feel as Scots, we've sort of got a mindset that we sort of work hard, mm-hmm. and stay humble. So we never get above our station, and you never start to think I'm all this and I'm all that.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes in professional sport, in top level sport, you need to have a bit of swagger.
Yeah. And
you need to believe that. And I think if you look at the Scotland side now, I think someone like Stuart Hogg, mm-hmm. is the fullback, and he's the captain, and he's one of the best players in the world. And I think alongside his skills and his physical, he's incredibly fast. I think he's got this real innate self-confidence and self-belief, which is almost a very un-Scottish trait. And I think it took me to that point to really get that belief in myself.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting you say that, because I've certainly seen, I think at the highest level, is the ability to not lose confidence is probably equally important as having loads of it. And you want to get that balance, don't you, where you've kind of, you know, the confidence that you've earned the right to have, but it's also pretty difficult to dent the confidence. And I think if you haven't got the swagger, the confidence can go sometimes, can't it? And you can, and it's a much more of a fine line, isn't it, between you at your best and then you quite not stepping up because the belief has gone a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's the old thing, it's going out there and playing to win, as opposed to playing to not lose. Mm-hmm. And it's a subtle difference, but I think it's so important. It's so important. And at that point, I probably was a little bit playing to sort of not make a mistake.
Yeah.
As opposed to going out there and really going for it. But in hindsight now, so looking back, I'm really glad I had that 5 or 6 month period at the end of 2009 into 2010, because the lessons I learned from then has served me really, really well going forward, and continues to.
Yeah, no, great. And so, obviously the mind-body connection for me as someone interested in psychology is always fascinating. When you talk about the Maguire program, and obviously you've got something that's a very sort of physically evident sort of speech pattern to overcome.
Yeah.
What kind of approaches were taken to help you get to the point where you're becoming a fluent speaker, and that stammer is, you know, much more under control?
Yeah, so the first thing is to say, I'm just gonna jump on the word fluent there. So
Right.
I don't want to be fluent. I want to be eloquent.
Okay, cool.
And so if you listen to most speakers and people that you would say are fluent, there are lots of filler words. So there's lots of as, ums. My ultimate aim is to be as eloquent as I possibly can be. So that's the aim. So it gives me space to keep on growing and to keep on getting better, because I know I can still improve a lot, even though I've come a long way. But the thing around the program, so to break it down, it's basically, there is a basic cycle of speaking whereby they want to try and get all of the speaking coming from the costal diaphragm, because it's much more powerful. It's the diaphragm opera singers use, so it's way more powerful. And so to really help us to project our voice, and also to bring the speaking process down into the diaphragm and away from the face and the mouth and the throat, where it can sometimes get a little bit stuck. But for me, the big thing on the course I learned was, it was the psychological side, and it was assertive self-acceptance.
Right.
And so really accepting that I was a stammerer, and then it's a part of me. And that was the big thing that we focused on in the course, and not being frightened to show people that you're a stammerer, or not being frightened to speak about it, as I am now. So one of the things they do on the course, and it's a 4-day course of about 16 hours a day.
Right. Wow.
So really, really intense days. And one of the things they do on the 3rd day is you've got 3 hours to go out into the streets and to speak to 100 strangers, which as a fluent speaker as you are, I wouldn't imagine it sounds like a lot of fun, but to a stammerer, it's pretty frightening. It's pretty frightening, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what are people going to say? You know, what's the reaction going to be, etc., etc. But it's brilliant, because you face your fear so much, and you go and you just smash it, and it really forces you to accept it. And also one of the sayings they say on the course is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And it certainly challenged me, it challenged everyone on the course. But to see the growth in a lot of the other people that I went on the course with was absolutely inspirational for me. I was, in a sense, maybe slightly fortunate, because I do still have a fair bit of confidence. Whereas there was some people on the course had absolutely no confidence, and to see them really grow and really blossom over the period of the 4 days was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and that assertive self-acceptance, such a brilliant phrase. And if we go back to that kind of the first 30 caps and thinking, right, did you have assertive self-acceptance as an international rugby player, or were you someone who kind of, you know, thought you're okay, but, you know, hadn't really accepted you were that good, but then having that additional sense of self and confidence to be you, you know, that feels like, for anyone who's already incredibly good at what they do, there's still an assertive self-acceptance that might be worth pursuing, that could make a difference, even though you've already got a great track record. That feels like it was a kind of a really nice kind of veneer on top of what was already great, sort of, you know, a strong level of belief that you had.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It was such a big part and such a big time for me in my career. And then over the 6 months as well, I also agreed to sign for Saracens. So that was another change. And then in the summer, I moved to Saracens and I got married, and then I started Saracens. So it was really all in. It was an incredibly busy and incredibly intense 8 months, but it really changed. It changed everything for me.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like you then started looking forward, and you know, that you'd say taking control and actually putting things into your own destiny much more. It feels like there's a kind of a desire to move forward with some real purpose rather than taking the next cap one at a time, I guess, and it's kind of, you know, seeing how far it might go. It feels like there's a real control shift in there.
Absolutely, and to see, just to aim even bigger maybe, and say, well, you know, why not? Why can I not do this? Why can I not do that? So because as a kid, I always dreamed of playing for Scotland. It was ever since I was 4 or 5, you know, little kids on the rugby pitch. Where I'm from in the Borders is like a rugby mad area, and it was all I wanted to do. But as a kid, I was aware of my speech from sort of age 9, 10, 11, I think, and I never even dreamed of being Scotland captain, because I just thought, I'm going to stammer, I can't do it. But then, as I said, if you fast forward to the end of 2009 into 2010, it really changed everything for me. I said, okay, well, why not? I feel I've got the captaincy skills. I feel I know how to lead. But if I was a coach, I wouldn't choose me, because I can't speak at times. And so, but then at the same time, it's up to me to do it. So I've got to do it, and no one else is going to do it. And so that was a big thing.
Yeah, no, really sort of significant shift of mindset, I guess, and a powerful one that you're talking about there. And within the Maguire program as well, that kind of the assertive self-acceptance, that being really clear, so that confronting, you know, 100 people in 3 hours certainly wouldn't be my cup of tea. That definitely, you know, maybe an audience of the 300 at one go, and I'm talking about what I want to talk about. Happy to do that. Was there anything else kind of significant in terms of self-management, or kind of, managing sort of how you were thinking and feeling, or the combination of the two, that helped within the program as well?
I think so. Another part of the program, and just to sort of really manage alongside the assertive self-acceptance, is it can be a challenge. It's very easy to say to someone, you know, you've got to be assertive in yourself. You know, and so one thing they actually do on the Maguire program is they kind of teach you how to use fake stammers.
Right. Okay.
Because what often happens, and I did this, so I came out of the course and my confidence was sky high. I was flying, and I came out of the course, and a lot of my friends are saying, oh, you don't have a stammer anymore. And I did have a stammer, and I always will have a stammer, but I was quite happy for them to say that, because at that point I thought, yeah, they're right, I'm cured, I don't. So I wasn't fully accepting it. And so that's why on the course, they teach you how to do fake stammers. So you're showing people that you're not fluent, but inside I'm still in control of my stammer, as opposed to my stammer being in control of me. And so that probably took me a few years to fully embrace and to fully understand. And so as I said, I came out to the course, but that's something that I continue to work hard on.
Yeah, and I think that's a really powerful ownership of the stammer, isn't it? The paradoxical intention of, I am going to deliberately do the thing that I'm trying to stop doing, and actually, so, you know, I can stammer when I want, rather than my entire life is spent trying to suppress this thing and hope it doesn't sort of, you know, show up at a high level at the wrong time. That's a really significant change of mindset, isn't it? And I guess speaks as well to that earlier bit you said about going out to play not to lose, or to not make a mistake, rather than embracing performance and seeing how well you could do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a massive shift. It was a massive shift for me, and it took a while to really get there. And that's also tied in with my with my ultimate aim, as I've said, is to be eloquent.
Yeah.
My aim is not just to be fluent; it's to be eloquent. I want to be better than most normal speakers, and it's something that I continue to work on. So, just before Christmas, I signed up for my first ever radio commentary.
Right. Okay.
Which I'd never done because I was, if I'm honest, I was probably a little bit frightened of it because it's a big old challenge.
Yeah.
And so I signed up and did that. And was it good? No, it wasn't. But I would imagine most people listening probably thought it was okay. I didn't think it was very good, but it's something I'm going to keep on working on, and it's something I will keep on doing because I want to see sort of how good I can become.
Yeah, yeah, and so that it feels like you've done a really great job of setting yourself unreasonable goals, as you know, as a function of what you went through. Perhaps you had early success, but you know you found your way into it. But actually setting some unreasonable objectives and challenges for yourself is another layer of that, taking control and sort of, you know, just pushing yourself in a way on your terms.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand there aren't any limits to what I can achieve, you know. And so, as I said, with the commentary, it's one of my goals is that one day I want someone to pay me to be a radio commentator. And it's not because of the money, it's got nothing to do with that. It's because it shows that I've obviously got to a level to merit that. And I know I can do it. And along the way, there'll probably be a couple that don't go quite as well, but that's all. It's all part of it, and I'm just going to keep on challenging myself and keep on pushing myself to become the best I can be. And it's the same with the coaching. So I've got to stand up every single day and speak. Every single day, I've got to stand up and speak to groups. I've got to coach groups. It's such a communication, such a massive part of it. And I could have finished playing and stepped away from it and found a job where I didn't really have to speak too much, which a lot of stammers actually do. But I was like, no, I want to challenge this face on, and it's not going to define me, and I'm going to set myself the challenge to be the best I can be and to push myself as far as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I guess the other bit was interesting that you were talking about was kind of moving the voice down into the diaphragm and kind of, you know, using a different way of creating the voice. You know, certainly there's a lot of, I guess, for athletes and all of us with mindfulness at the moment, there's a lot of emphasis on breath and breathing from the diaphragm. And I'm just wondering, did that help you connect with your body in a different way by, you know, moving the voice into a different place? And did that give you a different sense of physical control over stuff?
I think it does, yes. You know, obviously, anyone that does any mindfulness, you know, when you do breathe really deeply and you breathe into the costal diaphragm and all this sort of stuff, it does calm you. It does calm you, and it just slows everything down and it relaxes you. But it's also because it's a really, really powerful muscle, the costal diaphragm, and so when you start to speak, you can be really assertive and you can really attack those words, as opposed to a lot of stammerers sort of shy away from it, and they shy away, and the body language is all about timid and all about holding back. It really gives you the power to go for it and to be really eloquent and to really attack it and smash down the first sound of that word.
Yeah, and that there's a lot of this that really parallels so nicely with it. You know, it's one thing, you know, playing to try not to have fear of failure. It's a totally different thing to try and play free.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you're talking about that, you know, speaking with freedom rather than, you know, suppressing the fear of you know, things not quite coming out quite right as well. And yeah, it's kind of feels just a, you know, really interesting transition to kind of go through that. What after you did the Maguire course and you were playing and you, in the captaincy role as well, was there anything you were noticing in terms of you know, how you felt in pressure moments, both on the pitch and sort of in delivering stuff to the other players? Was there any shift for you just, you know, how you felt in those real testing moments of elite sport.
I felt as long as I'd done my preparation, I was fine.
Right.
Which is really the same as a player. I knew as long as I prepared well, as long as I'd done all of the work I could do. So from a rugby side, you've done all of your analysis and you've trained hard and you've practiced and you've seen all the pictures that you're going to see that week. As long as my preparation was good, I knew on a Saturday, on the game day, all I ultimately had to do was to go out there and just work unbelievably hard because I'd done all of the preparation. And it's really the same with my speech. So I often make phone calls. I've got a few coaches on the course now, even now, so 10 years later, and I'll phone them and I'll do a warm-up. And I'll phone them and really speak, be really disciplined in the technique, really slow it down, be really disciplined. So I know if I feel a block coming on, if I feel a stammer coming on, I know that I can control my speech. And so it's all about preparation.
Yeah. You know, and I think those pressure moments and knowing that the groundwork has been done is really important, because, you know, you go into the spotlight and, you know, and you've got to be prepared to be in the spotlight. And I'm interested in that spotlight as well from a leadership role and a coaching role at Saracens. Obviously, Saracens has been in the spotlight as well. Having, you know, had great success, but then, you know, quite a lot of, you know, issues around some of the stuff that's happened. How do you feel going back into that kind of spotlight of scrutiny now? You know, has stuff changed for you at Saracens given the last sort of year or so? Has you know, has that brought a different challenge to you, or, you know, how does that all go together, being a leader there?
Yeah, it's a different challenge. Obviously, it's been a really, really challenging year. I still don't know all of the ins and outs to it, but we've clearly made some pretty big errors in the running of the club. Do I think, as a lot of people are saying, that Saracens have bought all of our success? No, I don't. I think we've got our success because we've got a really, really strong academy and because of the culture at the club. And I, in a funny way, in almost a slightly perverse way, I actually think it's quite exciting to have this challenge, because we've almost got to start again. And we've almost got to say, right, we have had all of this success because of our culture and because of the players and the people in our environment. And so let's go and show everyone and show the world that it's not changed. It's still because of the culture. It's still because of this. It's still because of that. And then a few things that I picked up really, really early on in my days at Saracens. So I remember I came down to meet it was a head coach, a guy called Brendan Venter, and the chief exec. And I came down to see them. And there was a couple of things that they said to me that just really stuck with me. The first one is they said, "Why are we here? What's the point in Saracens?" I was like, "Well, it's a rugby club, it's to win." And they said, "But why? Even if you win, after it, the cup and the trophy's got to go back. So what's the point?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but you've got the memory of winning." And they said, "Exactly. And that's why we're here. It's not to win, it's to make some memories." And so every day I'd go into training and they never spoke about winning. It's maybe changed now because of the success that we've had a little bit, but it was never spoken about. It was about, right, let's just focus on working hard and making some incredible memories. And we did that. And now at Allianz Park, if you walk out onto the pitch, it's the last thing it says above the tunnel. It says, "Let's make some memories." And I just thought it just made it easy. it made it so easy. And the other thing that they said at that time was, they said to me, they said a lot of rugby clubs, and this is true, a lot of rugby clubs have got this, a bit of a mindset is we'll treat them mean and it'll keep them keen.
Mm-hmm.
And at Saracens, it was completely different. As they said, okay, we will treat you unbelievably well. All we ask is that you work unbelievably hard in return. And again, it just made it so simple for me, because I'm not frightened of graft. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. So I just have to work hard. And then it was reinforced in my first day in the club, and we had a meeting, and the coaches said to us, they said, guys, they said, there's two types of errors. There's a skill error and there's an effort error. If you make a skill error, so if it's a missed tackle, if it's a drop pass, if it's a bad kick, anything like that, that is on us as coaches. It's our fault, because our job is to improve your skills. Mm-hmm. But if you make an effort error, so if it's a penalty in the breakdown because you've not worked on the floor to get away, or if it's a forward pass because you've been lazy working back into position so the pass has had to go forwards, anything like that is entirely on you. Mm-hmm. So I just loved that, because I remember I went up to the coach afterwards. I said, so what you're telling me is, as long as I work hard, I can't screw up. And they said, exactly. And I just thought, that is brilliant. What a way to do it. And so I just felt it gave me a freedom just to go out there and play, and just to go out there and not worry about anything. Just go out there, work as hard as I can. As long as I've done the preparation, I knew that everything was going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think that's so important around, creating the parameters within which you can go and play free.
Yeah,
because that's what it's done. It's allowed you to play without the fear of a mistake, that the unacceptable kind of mistake. And there's so much of that, I think, that people would assume, well, of course that's true, but actually stating it just allows that totally different mindset to come into play as well. So I think it's fascinating, just beautifully simple, but you've earned the right to be there. So here's the two kinds of errors, Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. And you say that the simple thing, I think as well, that's another thing which we often speak about at Sarries, or I often think about as a coach anyway. It's the KISS method. Mm-hmm. So you keep it simple, stupid. And again, I think a lot of times is we can overcomplicate so much stuff. And I think certainly with our academy players, right, let's just strip this down. What are the 2 or 3 things that these guys need to know and need to get right? And then everything else is going to take care of itself.
Yeah. And it feels like there's a real sense of collaboration there between everyone, even though there's coaching staff and playing staff. It's not a kind of them and us kind of thing. It's that real sense of accountability to each other and as part of the whole. That feels really important there as well. I guess that must be interesting for you, having moved into the sort of academy coaching role as well, and sort of being the other part of that accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the relationship, isn't it? And that's getting to know and getting to understand your fellow players. So when I was a player, there was a few guys on the team that thought and acted in a way that at times I wouldn't understand, and my perception wouldn't be right or whatever. But then I understood it was up to me to actually get to know that person and to speak to that person and say, listen, when you do this, I don't like it because I think that it shows me that you're not in control, or you're this or you're that. And the player was then able to speak back and say, well, I am in control. It's just at that moment I'm annoyed. I've got to let it out, but then I can park it and I can move on. And so then I got to understand that player a bit better. I was like, right, okay, so we get to know each other a bit better, because it's the other thing. So at Sarri, so they were sort of known for getting sent off on these trips. So we've had some amazing times over the years where they send us the bond as a group all over the world, which is so important, because the better you get to know and understand each other, the better when you're under pressure. That's when all the friendships and all of the understanding is so important. And an example of that really sort of bearing fruit was my first year. We got to the final of the Premiership, and we're up by 4 points against Leicester, and they had the ball for 9 minutes of extra time, and it's basically if they score, they win.
Yeah.
And so I think we defended something like 40 odd phases or something like this. So everyone is absolutely dying, absolutely exhausted. But because we built this real bond and this real connection in the team, no one wanted to let each other down. And so we fought and fought and fought and fought. And then we ultimately managed to hold out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. That kind of respect for each other, and sort of, you know, the power of difference, and sort of understanding that. John Amaechi, the psychologist, former NBA basketball player, John was sharing some stuff a few weeks ago around, you know, the whole concept of treat others like you would want to be treated is completely wrong. It's treat others like they want to be treated, but you've got to have the conversation to find out, you know, what's going on for them, what's the way in which you're going to work with them. And I guess that's interesting for me. You know, if I knew then what I know now, and you in a coaching role within an academy and bringing young players through, how do you manage that challenge where the young players have got to have the space to learn some stuff for themselves, but equally you've learned some important lessons that you want them to have as well? How are you finding that?
Yeah, so what we do at an academy level, so we get these guys in, and it's very fluid. So between the Saracens Academy and the county system, so we've got 3 counties: Hertfordshire, Essex, and Kent. And so under 15, under 16, so players sort of float between the counties and Saracens, and they move like that. And what we start then is we start to speak about the values,
right,
and the values that we have as Saracens. So alongside all of the rugby stuff, we also start to speak about all those, so the values: honesty, humility, work rate, and discipline. And they're so important, and they're the foundation of everything that we do. And so we really start to instill that early with our players, and try and explain why it's so important, try and explain what exactly is work rate. Because a lot of young people don't know, or they maybe, so they think, you know, work rate, it might be going out and going on a 5-mile run every day, and that's good for your rugby. Well, no, it's not. And so we try and educate them around them, but it's the values are the foundation of everything that we do. And so we start that off young. And then alongside that, as I said, all of the rugby stuff, but we also understand the importance of the team. And so we really try and get our guys to buy in. So we tend to have, with our under 18s, we'll have a trip, and so a squad trip. And we try, and every Monday night when we train, we try and have a meeting, a bit of a fun meeting, to really get everyone to engage and everyone to buy in and everyone to really start to understand each other.
Yeah. And I guess that values bit's so important for then helping people kind of understand their own experiences through the values perspective, and they can have their own experiences, but you keep coming back to, this is what we want to learn from. I think that sounds really sort of a great educational base for those players as well, as people rather than just players, by the sound of it as well. So, you know, that feels like it's a really important part of it. Yeah, mindful of time, I'm very grateful for the time that you've given, Kelly. As we're talking, does anything sort of really stick in your mind about stuff you know now that actually you really value? And, you know, it may have been more useful earlier in your career, but what's the key takeaways for you in terms of the stuff you really know now that is really powerful for you?
So one thing that we've kind of not really touched on, but a little bit from a leadership side. So I obviously now, as a coach, I've got to lead. As a captain, I had to lead. I also, so going back, I used to be captain of my school team and that sort of stuff. And leadership, something that I've really thought about, and I think it's so important. And when I was doing my coaching level 3, I came up with this saying. It's a bit of a gimmick thing, but I think it paints quite a nice picture in the head, and it's to build the wave.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the thing. And so my thinking was, right, I want to build the wave. So I'm the wave, and the players are the surfers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wave of energy. It's taking care of the surfers. It's building the trust. It's also encouraging them to try things. So all these sorts of things, I think it just paints a nice picture of what I believe leadership is. It's about caring for each of the individuals. It's about getting to know each of the individuals, encouraging them to try things, and also really leading by example. And so trying to show them the way as well.
Yeah, and I can see how you kind of built the wave for yourself in the second half of your career as well, and kind of had much more of that kind of mindset around making that work for you. That's brilliant. And, there's so much stuff I'm sure we could carry on talking about, but it's been great to have the chance to kind of hear your story, that kind of away from the performance environment, but the very personal stuff on the stammering and that, but also just how the overall philosophy that you've had has led to you have a great career, beginning a great coaching career as well. So it's been a privilege to hear that. So thank you for your openness around that. And so we get to the end of leg 4, which means that I have to ask you who you're handing over to. So we're looking for leg 5. So we've had sort of Catherine, then Claire, then Krista, then yourself. So who gets the next leg on the way, Kelly?
So leg 5 is going to be a gentleman called Casper Berry, who has had a really mixed and really interesting life. So he was actually an actor in Biker Grove.
Right. Okay.
Back in the day.
Right.
And then he went to America. He did a bit of TV writing. He had 3 years as a professional poker player. He's been a TV presenter as well. And so he's got some really, really interesting stories, and he's had a really interesting journey. So I'll be passing it on to him.
Fantastic. I instantly started to think about sort of acting, but then poker and calculated risk stuff and practice and preparation. So brilliant, fantastic. That's going to be superb, as well as maybe some Biker Grove stories about Anton Deck. Who knows? So but I'll try. I'm sure he'd be very bored of those. So I'll stick away from those and focus on the other stuff. That's absolutely great. Look, thank you very much. That's a great baton handover. Brilliant leg that you've run as well. So really appreciate that as well. And all the best with the ongoing homeschooling and everything else that you're doing during lockdown as well. And really appreciate your time. And we'll look forward to staying in touch as well. And hope you get to see some of the other ones that follow as well. So thank you very much from the audience, from Singapore, the world over. Kelly, fantastic. Appreciate your time, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. It's been great, Chris.
Yeah, pleasure. Fantastic. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.